There are moments in life when the weight of the journey makes you feel as though you have been walking through endless sand with no shade, no water, and no sign of relief. The desert seasons test your endurance, they press against your faith, and they whisper lies that you will never reach the other side. Yet, even in the silence, even in the heat, God has been with you, guiding each step, holding back what would have destroyed you, and shaping within you a strength you didn't know you carried. This moment is not the end, it is the bridge to something greater. Before we continue, I want you to pause and write one word in the comments that expresses what you need from God right now. It could be strength, peace, healing, or direction. That simple act of faith creates connection, not only with this message, but with others walking through their own deserts, waiting for the same breakthrough. As you type that word, you are declaring that your desert will not define you, because God is about to reveal His extraordinary plan for your life. Beloved, hear this: the desert was never meant to destroy you, but to prepare you. It was there that your roots dug deeper, there that your faith was sharpened, and there that your spirit was tested until it became unshakable. And now, the season shifts. The dry places will soon overflow with rivers of blessing. What once felt barren will burst into life. The very ground that seemed empty will produce fruit beyond anything you imagined. God is saying, get ready, because you are about to step into the extraordinary. When you look back at your life, you will see that the desert was not a place of abandonment, but a place of hidden training. It was in those long nights of silence that your prayers became more honest. It was in those lonely days that your dependence on God deepened. And it was in that wilderness that He removed the distractions that clouded your vision. The desert stripped away what you thought you needed so that you could recognize the one you could never live without. Every tear shed, every unanswered question, and every moment of weakness was a tool in His hands, chiseling away what held you down and preparing you for the elevation that is now in front of you. What you thought was punishment was actually protection, and what you believed was the end was only the beginning of a greater revelation of His love. Now the Spirit of the Lord whispers with power, you are standing on the edge of change. The season of thirst is turning into a season of refreshing. The days of wandering are giving way to days of direction, and the silence is being broken by the sound of God's voice declaring purpose over you. Do not despise the desert you endured, because it is proof that you survived the fire that many others did not. You are still here, stronger than before, and that is evidence that God's hand never left you. The very battles that made you stumble will now become the testimonies that lift others. Where people thought you were finished, God is about to show that you were only being prepared for the extraordinary chapter about to unfold. Beloved, the extraordinary is not something distant. It is about to break into your reality. You will see opportunities appear where only closed doors existed. You will witness relationships restored where only brokenness remained. You will experience peace in places where anxiety once ruled. And above all, you will encounter the undeniable presence of God, not in whispers, but in mighty demonstrations of His power. The extraordinary is not simply blessings, but transformation, the kind that changes who you are from the inside out. This is the moment to lift your eyes, strengthen your faith, and prepare your heart, because God is ready to do exceedingly, abundantly, above all that you could ever ask or imagine. Every journey through the desert carries with it the weight of exhaustion, but also the hidden treasure of perspective. The very ground that once felt like a prison is about to testify as a stage of victory. The Lord allowed you to walk where the sun burned your back and the nights were cold, not to abandon you, but to break away the illusions that blinded your spirit. In the wilderness, you learned that not every voice deserves your attention, not every path deserves your steps, and not every door that closes is a loss. Some doors had to close so that greater ones could open, and the desert became the filter that removed the unnecessary and refined the essential. You thought you were losing, but in truth, you were gaining clarity and authority for the next season of your destiny. Beloved, the extraordinary that is coming is not small, it is not partial, and it is not ordinary. God is preparing to magnify His presence in your life in such a way that those who doubted you will not be able to deny His hand upon you. What once looked like a grave will soon reveal itself as a garden, and the very ground that seemed lifeless will burst forth with new beginnings. The people who spoke against you will be witnesses of God's restoration, and those who walked away will see that you did not fall, but that you were lifted higher than before. The extraordinary is not just about personal gain, it is about divine vindication. God will use your transformation to silence the lies, to prove His faithfulness, and to remind the world that His promises never return void. The Spirit declares that you will no longer walk with the weight of yesterday's pain. You will not be chained to regrets, nor will you be paralyzed by the memory of what went wrong. The desert was the last place you would shed tears of despair, for what lies ahead will make those tears become seeds of joy. The extraordinary is about redemption, every loss turning into a lesson, every scar into a sign of survival, and every delay into proof that God's timing is perfect. This is the moment when heaven collides with your present, breaking the limitations that tried to define you and opening a path toward destiny. Step forward with expectation, because the extraordinary is already at your door. The desert has always been a place of contradiction. On the surface, it looks like nothing lives there, nothing grows there, and nothing can survive under its merciless heat. Yet, hidden beneath the dry sand are seeds waiting for the right moment, waiting for a touch of rain to reveal that life was always there, buried but not destroyed. In the same way, your life seemed empty in certain seasons, as though no progress was happening, as though prayers were ignored and time was wasted. But the truth is, while you thought nothing was moving, God was working in secret. He was planting seeds in your character, watering your faith in silence, and aligning people, opportunities, and breakthroughs you couldn't see. What felt like stillness was actually preparation. The desert was not proof of God's absence, it was proof of His process. You were never abandoned, you were being prepared for a moment of unveiling, and that moment is now. Beloved, do not underestimate the power of what you endured. While others may see your scars as evidence of struggle, heaven sees them as evidence of survival. Every dry step you took was noticed, every moment you felt weak was recorded, and every prayer you thought evaporated into thin air was actually stored in God's heart. The extraordinary that is coming is a direct response to what you endured with faith. You didn't quit when quitting seemed easier, you didn't give up when surrender looked tempting, and you didn't let despair have the final word. For that reason, God Himself is about to raise you in the presence of those who thought the desert would be your grave. He is preparing a table in the wilderness, showing that what was meant to break you has only built you, and what was sent to bury you has only prepared the ground for your resurrection into something greater. Now, prepare your heart for the shift that is already unfolding. The extraordinary is not coming to visit, it is coming to stay. Streams of living water are about to flow into the areas of your life that felt most barren. Relationships that were broken beyond repair will begin to heal in ways you never imagined. Doors that were sealed shut for years will swing open effortlessly, because God has declared this is your appointed time. And more than material blessings or opportunities, you will feel the undeniable presence of the Lord walking with you in a deeper way. His voice will be clearer, His guidance stronger, and His peace unshakable. The desert season is over, and the extraordinary is not just a promise, it is your new reality. Lift your eyes, beloved, because the dawn of transformation is breaking, and what comes next will leave you in awe of the one who never left your side. There's a reason why God allows the desert to come before the promise. In the desert, distractions fall away, and your heart is exposed for what it truly depends on. In the comfort of abundance, it is easy to lean on what you see, on what you can control, and on the people around you. But in the wilderness, where resources run dry and voices go silent, you discover that your only true source is the Lord Himself. It is there that He teaches you to trust when nothing makes sense, to believe when there is no evidence, and to walk by faith when sight gives you no assurance. The desert is a place of refining, and refinement is never easy. Yet it is in that furnace of pressure where your faith is purified like gold, where your character is sharpened, and where your spirit becomes unshakable. And because you endured, you are now stepping into a season where the extraordinary will not only visit, but overflow into every area of your life. Beloved, imagine this: every tear you cried in the silence of the night was not wasted. Each one was like a drop of water poured into the soil of your destiny. While you thought nothing was changing, Those tears were nurturing the very seeds God planted within you long before you even realized it. And now, the time of blossoming has arrived. What once looked barren is about to flourish with abundance. Where you saw emptiness, there will be overflow. Where you felt weakness, there will be strength. Where you carried shame, there will be honor. The extraordinary is not just about receiving blessings. It is about transformation so radical that even you will look back and hardly recognize the person you used to be. God is not only rewriting your story, He is giving you a testimony that will inspire generations to come. And this is why the enemy fought you so hard in the desert. He wanted you to give up before the rain came. He wanted you to abandon your faith before the breakthrough arrived. He wanted you to believe that the silence was permanent, that the pain was final, and that the desert was your destiny. But he failed because you are still here. You survived the storms, you endured the loneliness, and you refused to let go of God's hand. That very resilience is the reason you are about to witness the extraordinary. The desert has ended, and the atmosphere around you is shifting. Heaven is aligning, the earth is responding, and your spirit is rising. The extraordinary is no longer a distant hope, it is the reality that is unfolding before your very eyes. The extraordinary that is coming into your life is not something ordinary, wrapped in new clothes. It is not just a small improvement over what you had before. It is a complete transformation, the kind that makes people look at you and say, "Surely God has been with them." When the Israelites left Egypt, they did not simply step into a land with slightly better conditions. They stepped into a land flowing with milk and honey, a place that contradicted every memory of their wilderness. In the same way, God is not bringing you out of the desert just to place you into another ordinary space. No, beloved, He is ushering you into a season that will be so radically different that the desert will seem like a distant memory. You will look back and say, "It was worth it. Every tear, every prayer, every silent night was worth it, because now I can see what God was preparing for me." Beloved, you must understand that when God calls you to the extraordinary, it requires a shift in mindset. The desert taught you how to survive, but the extraordinary requires you to learn how to thrive. Survival is about holding on. Thriving is about expanding, growing, and taking ground that the enemy once occupied. You cannot enter this new season carrying the same doubts and fears that followed you in the wilderness. This is the time to let go of what no longer serves you, to release the voices that keep you chained to yesterday, and to embrace the promise that God is speaking over your tomorrow. He is calling you to lift your head, straighten your shoulders, and walk into the extraordinary with boldness, because it is already yours. And here is the mystery of God's timing. He often waits until everything around you seems impossible before He reveals His greatest miracles. He allows the desert to stretch you so that when the extraordinary comes, you will know without a shadow of doubt that it was not your effort, not your connections, and not your wisdom that opened the door. It was Him, and Him alone. This is why the extraordinary will carry His fingerprint in every detail. It will not only bless you, but it will also glorify Him in the eyes of those around you. People will marvel, not at what you have accomplished, but at the undeniable evidence that God's hand is on your life. And as you step into this season, you will see that the extraordinary is not just a destination, it is a testimony, a living declaration of God's faithfulness from the desert to the promised land. When God prepares to shift someone from the desert into the extraordinary, He does not simply change their surroundings, He changes their identity. The wilderness was the place where you questioned who you were, where you wrestled with feelings of inadequacy, where the enemy whispered that you were forgotten and unworthy. But it was also the place where God whispered louder, "You are mine." You were never abandoned in that barren land. You were being shaped, refined, and marked for a destiny bigger than what you could comprehend. Now, as you step out of the desert, the identity forged in the fire is rising within you. You are no longer just a survivor, you are a carrier of promise, an heir of victory, and a testimony of God's unfailing love. Beloved, the extraordinary that awaits you is not just about blessings you can touch or victories you can see. It is about a shift in the very atmosphere of your life. Where you once carried heaviness, you will carry joy. Where you once walked in fear, you will now walk in boldness. Where you once felt weak, you will rise with supernatural strength. This shift is not temporary, it is the beginning of a new way of living, where every step you take echoes with the authority of one who has walked through the fire and come out refined. And people will notice. They will look at you and see the glow of someone who has been in the presence of God. They will see the evidence of the extraordinary, not only in what you possess, but in who you have become. And now hear this, the extraordinary season is not waiting far in the distance, it is already unfolding around you. The doors are aligning, the opportunities are gathering, and the provision is being released. The same God who allowed the desert is the one who now declares, it is time. This shift is irreversible because it is rooted in heaven's decree, not in human approval. No weapon formed against you can stop what God has already put in motion. The extraordinary is not a promise you will someday hold, it is the reality you are stepping into right now. Lift your hands, lift your faith, and lift your expectation, because what is coming next will silence every doubt and magnify the greatness of your God. The desert, beloved, was not just a place of emptiness, it was the proving ground of your faith. Every trial, every delay, and every silence was a classroom where heaven was teaching you lessons that abundance could never teach. It was there that you learned to listen when no answer seemed to come, to stand when everything in you wanted to fall, and to believe even when evidence was nowhere to be found. These hidden lessons are now the very foundation that will allow you to carry the extraordinary without being crushed by its weight. For what good is a blessing if the vessel is unprepared to hold it? What good is abundance if the heart cannot steward it? You endured the desert because God was shaping you into someone who could not only receive the extraordinary, but live in it and multiply it for His glory. And now, the extraordinary begins to manifest in ways you cannot deny. The same God who parted the Red Sea is the God who is parting the obstacles that once stood immovable before you. The same God who brought water from the rock is the God who is releasing refreshing into the areas of your life that felt most barren. The extraordinary is not something foreign, it is the very expression of His nature. For He is not a God of limitation, but of abundance, not a God of barely enough, but of overflow. As He moves you forward, you will find that doors open where walls once stood, rivers flow where deserts once stretched, and hope rises where despair once reigned. This is not imagination, this is divine orchestration. God Himself is writing this chapter, and it will surpass anything you thought possible. Beloved, prepare your spirit, for the extraordinary does not come quietly, it comes with a sound, a shifting, a trembling in the atmosphere. You will sense it in your heart before you see it with your eyes, and when it manifests, it will leave no room for doubt. Family members who thought you were finished will stand in awe. Friends who questioned your faith will witness God's vindication. And you yourself will fall to your knees, overwhelmed not just by what God has done, but by who He has proven Himself to be. The extraordinary is not only about blessing, it is about revelation. It is the unveiling of the God who was with you in the desert and is now with you in the promise. And once you step into this season, you will never again mistake silence for absence or delay for denial, because you will know that everything was leading to this extraordinary moment. Beloved, understand this truth. The extraordinary season you are entering will not just touch one area of your life, it will invade every corner. The desert made you think small. It taught you to conserve energy, to hold back dreams, to settle for survival. But God is breaking that mindset now, because the extraordinary demands expansion. No longer will you think in terms of barely enough. You will begin to see overflow. No longer will you dream within the limits of what you can achieve. You will dream according to what God can accomplish. The desert trained your faith in the shadows, but now that same faith will carry you into rooms you never imagined entering, before people you never thought would notice you, and into opportunities you could never have created on your own. The extraordinary will not only meet your needs, it will exceed them so greatly that you will have more than enough to pour into others. And this is where the testimony becomes undeniable. Those who saw you walk through the desert, those who thought you would not survive, will now have to confront the reality of what God has done in you. They will remember the tears you cried, the silence you endured, and the battles you faced. And then they will see the abundance, the peace, the favor, and the authority that now surround your life. This is not to glorify you, but to glorify the one who carried you. The extraordinary is God's signature written across your story. His way of saying to the world, "This is my child, and I have been faithful." Your very life will become a sermon louder than any words you could ever speak, because the evidence of His power will be undeniable in everything you touch and everywhere you go. Beloved, I need you to hear this. The desert is not the last chapter. It is only the prologue. What comes next will rewrite everything you thought about yourself, everything you believed about your future, and everything others assumed about your destiny. God is about to place you in a position where His glory shines so brightly through you that even your enemies will have to acknowledge it. The extraordinary is not simply a reward for enduring hardship. It is the fulfillment of divine promise. Heaven has been waiting for this moment, and now the earth will witness it. Stand firm, because the shift is not coming someday. It is happening now. You are stepping into extraordinary favor, extraordinary provision, extraordinary peace, and extraordinary purpose. And once you cross this threshold, there will be no turning back, only forward into the greatness God has prepared for you. Beloved, there comes a time when the desert no longer defines you, but testifies of you. The very ground where you once stumbled in weakness will become the platform where you stand in strength. The extraordinary season God is ushering you into is not only about what you will receive, it is about who you will become in the process. You will no longer see yourself through the lens of struggle, but through the eyes of destiny. The same voice that sustained you in the silence now declares with power, "You are chosen, you are appointed, and you are stepping into the fulfillment of what was spoken over your life." Every delay has been redeemed, every loss has been recorded, and every battle has been transformed into fuel for the greater purpose that is unfolding before you. And as you step into this extraordinary season, watch how quickly the atmosphere shifts. Where there was confusion, clarity will come. Where there was lack, abundance will pour in. Where there was fear, courage will rise within you. God does not do things halfway, beloved. When He moves in fullness. This is why the extraordinary is not just about one answered prayer, it is about an outpouring that touches areas of your life you had forgotten, areas you stopped believing could change, areas you thought would always remain dry. The God who made rivers in the desert is the same God who is now releasing streams of blessing into your relationships, your health, your purpose, and your calling. Nothing will remain untouched by His hand. Beloved, let this truth settle deep into your spirit. The extraordinary is not meant to scare you. It is meant to position you. It may feel overwhelming at first because it is bigger than anything you ever imagined. But that is exactly the point. God is proving that what He gives is not measured by your limitations, but by His limitless power. This is not a season where you will strive for scraps of blessing. This is a season where you will overflow to the point of becoming a blessing to others. You will walk into rooms carrying the fragrance of victory, and people will be drawn not to you, but to the God who shines through you. The extraordinary is the evidence that your desert was never wasted, that your pain had purpose, and that your story is unfolding exactly as heaven intended. Beloved, when God speaks of the extraordinary, He is not speaking of something temporary, fragile, or fleeting. He is speaking of a season that carries His eternal weight, a transformation so profound that it redefines how you see yourself, how others perceive you, and how you understand the very faith you carry. The desert tested you. It broke away your illusions, and it stripped you of everything you thought you needed. It reduced you to a place where only God could sustain you. That breaking was never cruelty, it was divine strategy. For now, you rise as one who has been emptied of false securities and filled with unshakable trust in the Lord. And it is precisely this trust that will allow you to carry the extraordinary without losing yours. LFL in pride, fear, or distraction. God had to prepare you so that what He places in your hands now will never be wasted. This extraordinary season is not about receiving one answered prayer or a single open door. It is about a flood of God's goodness overtaking your life. Imagine rivers of provision flowing into places where you once felt lack. Imagine divine connections stepping into your path where once there was only isolation. Imagine breakthroughs arriving in areas you thought would remain closed forever. That is the nature of the extraordinary. It does not come in pieces. It comes as an overflow. It comes with acceleration, it comes with restoration, and it comes with undeniable evidence that the hand of God is moving. The same God who walked with Israel by a pillar of fire in the night and a cloud by day is the same God who now declares that His presence will be with you in every step, every decision, and every moment of this next chapter. And beloved, the extraordinary is not only meant to transform your life, but to impact those connected to you, your family, your community, and even those who once doubted you will be touched by the overflow of what God is releasing. The dessert made you strong, but the extraordinary will make you influential. Not influential by human standards, but by divine assignment. People will see your journey, they will remember your pain, and they will witness your breakthrough. And in that testimony, their faith will be ignited. Your story will become a living sermon, one that shouts louder than words, declaring to the world, if God could do it for me, He can do it for you. That is the true nature of the extraordinary. It is never just for you. It is for the glory of God revealed through you, a light that shines in the darkness so that others may find their way to Him. Beloved, the extraordinary that God is preparing is not something you will simply observe from a distance. It will be something you live, breathe, and embody. The dessert season taught you how to survive on little, how to cling to God when everything else failed, and how to keep walking when every step felt impossible. But now, the Lord says it is time to exchange survival for abundance. You are not stepping into a season of barely making it. You are stepping into a season of overflow, where His blessings are not occasional, but continual. This is not about a single breakthrough that fades away. It is about a lifestyle shift, where you will carry the presence of God in such a tangible way that everything around you begins to change. The extraordinary is not an event, it is a dimension, a new atmosphere that you will carry with you into every room, every relationship, and every situation. Think about the weight of this. Beloved, the very places where you were once overlooked will soon be the places where God highlights you. The same voices that once mocked you will soon be forced to admit that God's hand is undeniable upon your life. The extraordinary is not coming to give you recognition for your sake. It is coming to magnify the glory of the Lord through you. Every closed door, every delay, and every disappointment was allowed so that when this moment arrived, no one could take credit but God Himself. And when He moves in such a way that even your enemies are left in silence. The extraordinary will be your vindication, your proof that the dessert did not bury you, but prepared you to shine with a light that cannot be hidden. Your scars will not speak of defeat, but of survival. Your story will not speak of shame, but of triumph. Beloved, let this settle in your heart. The extraordinary is not just about outward blessings. It is about inward transformation. God is about to fill you with a peace that no storm can steal, with a joy that no circumstance can diminish, and with a strength that no enemy can break. The extraordinary is the presence of God saturating your life so deeply that you become unshakable, immovable, and unstoppable in His purpose. You will walk differently, speak differently, and see differently because your perspective will no longer be shaped by pain, but by promise. This is why the dessert was necessary, because without it, you would not have the capacity to carry the extraordinary that is now being released. Lift your eyes, beloved, for the horizon is breaking, and what you are about to step into will exceed your prayers, surpass your dreams, and overwhelm you with the greatness of your God. Beloved, when God moves you from the dessert into the extraordinary, He does not simply improve a few things in your life, He redefines everything. The dessert was the place where you felt stripped, empty, and forgotten. But it was also the sacred ground where God was building the foundation of your new identity. You thought you were being reduced, but in reality, you were being refined. Every unanswered prayer was stretching your faith. Every delay was expanding your patience. And every trial was strengthening your endurance. These qualities are not temporary. They are eternal deposits inside of you, designed to sustain the extraordinary season you are stepping into. What once broke you is now the very thing that qualifies you to carry the abundance of heaven. The dessert was your training ground, and now you emerge as one prepared for victory. The extraordinary that is unfolding will manifest in such a way that you will no longer question whether God has been with you. His fingerprints will be evident in every area of your life. Provision will come in unexpected ways. Opportunities will align at the perfect time, and relationships that carry destiny will find their way to you. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is divine orchestration. God has been behind the scenes all along, arranging every detail so that when the extraordinary appears, you will know without a shadow of doubt that it was His hand guiding you. The desert tried to convince you that silence meant absence, but the extraordinary reveals that silence was strategy, and absence was never real. He was there, always preparing you for this very moment. Beloved, prepare yourself, because the extraordinary will not come in small increments. It will come like a flood. It will wash away the residue of the desert. It will drench every dry area of your soul, and it will refresh the vision you thought was lost. Dreams you buried will rise again. Passions you silenced will burn again, and hope you thought was gone will roar back to life. And as this wave of the extraordinary overtakes you, it will not only change your present, it will transform your future. You will walk differently because you will know you are chosen. You will speak differently because your voice will carry authority. And you will live differently because you will have tasted and seen the goodness of God in ways that cannot be denied. This is the extraordinary you have been prepared for. And beloved, it begins now. Beloved, the extraordinary is God's way of turning your wilderness into a testimony of His faithfulness. The very season that tried to crush you will now become the evidence that God was with you all along. Every silent night, every tear shed in secret, every prayer whispered when no one else was listening has been collected by the hand of the Father. He never lost track of your pain. He never ignored your cries, and He never turned His face away. What felt like abandonment was actually alignment, positioning you for a level of glory you could not yet carry. And now, He says, the time of hiding is over. You endured the silence so that your voice could be amplified. You endured the drought so that you could value the rain. And you endured the battle so that you could appreciate the victory. The extraordinary is not a reward for suffering. It is the manifestation of His promise. And beloved, understand this. The extraordinary does not come to simply bless you. It comes to change the atmosphere around you. When God moves, His glory touches everything connected to you. Your family will feel it. Your household will be saturated with it, and even your workplace. Your friendships and your future generations will be impacted by the overflow. The extraordinary is contagious. It is light shining into darkness, and when it shines through you, it draws others to the presence of God. The same people who doubted you will see His hand, and those who once walked away will realize they underestimated the power of your God. This season is not only about what you receive, but about how your life will reflect heaven on earth. You are becoming a living testimony that radiates faith, resilience, and victory. Beloved, lift your eyes beyond what you see, for the extraordinary is not bound by your current reality. It is not confined by the size of your bank account, the opinions of others, or the limitations of your circumstances. It is birthed in the limitless power of God, and when He decides to release it, nothing in hell or on earth can stop it. What He is preparing will silence the enemy's accusations, overturn the verdicts of doubt, and dismantle every lie spoken over you. This is why your desert was so intense, because the enemy knew what was on the other side. But he failed because you are still here. And now, God Himself declares that you will walk in extraordinary peace, extraordinary provision, and extraordinary purpose. The desert chapter is closed, and the book of the extraordinary has just been opened over your life. Beloved, the extraordinary season is not something distant. It is here, it is now, and it is unfolding even as you listen to these words. The same God who sustained you in the silence is now elevating you in the open. This is a divine shift where what was hidden will be revealed, what was closed will be opened, and what was delayed will be accelerated. You are not simply stepping into another chapter, you are stepping into a completely new book of your destiny, written by the hand of God Himself. The extraordinary is not about a single blessing, but about a continual outpouring that transforms your days, your nights, your decisions, and your future. And as you walk in this reality, you will no longer live as someone surviving storms, but as someone commanding waves by the authority of the Spirit. And let me gently invite you, beloved, if this word has been speaking to your spirit, take a moment now and follow this channel. Each message here is a continuation of what God is pouring into your life, a steady stream of encouragement, revelation, and truth that strengthens you for the journey ahead. Do not walk alone when you can walk in community. By following, you align yourself with a family of faith that is moving together toward the extraordinary, learning, growing, and being transformed day by day. Your engagement is not just supported as partnership in this divine assignment. So click that button and continue with us as God reveals greater and greater things for your life. Beloved, never forget, the extraordinary is not just about what happens around you. It is about what God is birthing within you. Your spirit has been stretched, your faith has been tested, and your endurance has been proven. Now, heaven recognizes you as one who can carry weight, as one who can handle glory, as one who can be trusted with influence. That is why your extraordinary season is not shallow, but deep. It will change your mindset. It will expand your capacity, and it will cause you to see yourself the way God has always seen you, chosen, appointed, and unstoppable in His will. The desert could not break you because you were built for more. And now, beloved, the extraordinary begins to overflow. The extraordinary season you are stepping into is not a subtle change, but a radical transformation that will touch every aspect of your life. The desert stripped you down, tested your endurance, and left you feeling as though you had nothing left to give. But in that very place, God was building something: unseen resilience, depth, and unshakable faith. Now you stand on the edge of a divine shift where lack gives way to abundance, silence gives way to clarity, and brokenness gives way to restoration. What once looked like defeat will now shine as proof of God's faithfulness. This is not the end of your journey through trials. It is the beginning of your journey through victory. Consider how far you've come. Every unanswered prayer, every lonely night, and every hidden tear has become the soil where your testimony is growing. What you thought was wasted time has been redeemed by the one who sees all and knows all. And now, the extraordinary is not only approaching, it is already pressing into your present. Opportunities will arise that you could never orchestrate. Doors will swing open without your hand touching them. And peace will cover you like a garment even when chaos surrounds you. The wilderness tried to convince you that your story was over, but God has written a new chapter, and it is filled with favor, provision, and purpose that will exceed anything you imagined. This shift is not just for your benefit. It will ripple out into the lives of those around you. Your family will see the change. Your friends will witness the difference. And even strangers will sense the presence of something greater on your life. That is the power of the extraordinary. It carries influence beyond your reach. What you carry now will not only transform your circumstances, but will also ignite faith in those who watch your journey unfold. You endured the desert for a reason, so that now, as you walk into this new season, the evidence of God's goodness will be undeniable. This is your time, your moment, your divine appointment. The extraordinary is not far off. It is here, and it is yours to walk in. The desert was never meant to be your destination. It was the passage that shaped you for where you are going. In that dry place, you discovered the limits of your own strength, but you also uncovered the boundless power of God's presence sustaining you. Now, as the atmosphere shifts, the weight of your trials is giving birth to the weight of glory. This new season will not simply replace what was lost, it will multiply it. The extraordinary is not a restoration of what you once had. It is the manifestation of what you never imagined you could carry. God is not giving you back the same measure. He is pouring into your life, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. You will see that the waiting was not wasted, because the harvest that is coming will be greater than the pain that preceded it. Look closely at the signs around you. Doors that once seemed permanently sealed are beginning to open without effort. People who once overlooked you are now being positioned to favor you. Situations that once drained your strength are now aligning for your good. These are not random coincidences. They are the early signals of the extraordinary unfolding in your life. What you are stepping into is bigger than opportunity, it is destiny. Every step you take now is under divine orchestration, and the path ahead, though unfamiliar, is drenched with purpose. The extraordinary is not limited to one breakthrough. It will continue to manifest in waves, surprising you again and again. With how perfectly God's timing unfolds, And as you step into this reality, do not forget that what God is doing in you is also for those who will come after you. Your testimony will plant seeds of hope in hearts that are weary. Your transformation will become a map for others still wandering in their desert. The extraordinary is never just about one life, it is about the ripple effect of God's glory, spreading outward. What once seemed like private pain will become a public testimony. The strength you gained in hidden battles will now shine as light. For those still walking in shadows, this is your moment to walk boldly, to lift your head, and to embrace the fullness of what God has prepared. The extraordinary is not only your portion, it is your calling. And the world will soon see the evidence of His power flowing through you. The extraordinary that is being released into your life is not something that will fade with time, but something that will redefine time itself. What you endured in the desert was preparation for permanence. Temporary struggles were shaping you for lasting transformation. The dryness that once surrounded you made you long for water, but what God is pouring out now is not just a cup, it is rivers that will never run dry. This season is not about a single breakthrough to celebrate for a moment. It is about entering into a flow where blessing becomes the atmosphere you breathe. You will rise each day with renewed strength, with clarity of vision, and with confidence that what God has begun in you cannot be stopped. The extraordinary is not just for today, it is for every tomorrow that lies ahead. You must understand that the extraordinary does not come to the unprepared. That is why your desert was so intense, why your trials felt unbearable, and why your nights were so long. God was forming in you the capacity to carry what is now being entrusted to you. Without that refining, the extraordinary could have crushed you, but now it will carry you. Where once you felt weak, you will discover new strength. Where once you questioned your worth, you will step forward with authority. And where once you doubted the future, you will now walk in certainty that your steps are guided by divine purpose. Every tear you shed, every prayer you whispered, and every moment you endured was not wasted, it was an investment that is now yielding an extraordinary return. This new season will silence the voices of doubt, both within and around you. Those who questioned whether you would ever rise will be confronted with undeniable evidence of God's hand on your life. The extraordinary will not only bless you, but will vindicate you. It will show the world that what was spoken over you in the dark is now being revealed in the light. And as you walk in this season, your life will echo a message louder than any sermon. God is faithful, God is powerful, and God keeps His promises. This is the reality you are stepping into, not as a dream, not as a distant hope, but as the undeniable manifestation of heaven invading your present. The extraordinary is not coming someday, it has already begun. The extraordinary you are stepping into is not a random blessing. It is the fulfillment of divine design. Long before you entered the desert, God had already written this chapter. For you, every challenge, every obstacle, and every tear was part of a greater orchestration leading you here. While you walked through seasons of silence, heaven was never quiet. The plans of God were advancing, unseen but unstoppable. Now you stand at the threshold of manifestation, and what once felt like endless waiting is about to make sense. The extraordinary is not an accident, it is destiny finally revealed. You will look back on the wilderness not with bitterness, but with gratitude, because you will see how every dry step led you to the place of overflow. The desert may have been long, but the glory waiting for you is eternal. This extraordinary move of God will transform how you walk, how you speak, and how you see the world. No longer will you carry the posture of survival, you will carry the posture of victory. You will no longer shrink in the face of challenges, because the strength forged in the desert has made you bold. You will no longer doubt if God is with you, because His presence will be undeniable in your life. The extraordinary is not just about open doors or material provision. It is about a supernatural shift in identity. You will begin to see yourself as God has always seen you, chosen, equipped, and destined to shine as a reflection of His glory. This transformation will be so evident that others will be drawn to you, not to admire you, but to encounter the God who has carried you through every season. And now, prepare your heart for the final revelation. The extraordinary is not a moment, it is a mantle. God is clothing you with favor, surrounding you with protection, and filling you with wisdom for the days ahead. This is not just about your blessing, it is about your assignment. The desert was meant to build your faith, but the extraordinary is meant to expand your influence. What you carry now will impact lives, inspire hope, and point countless hearts back to the Father. You are no longer defined by the wilderness. You are defined by the promise. The extraordinary is not only your portion, it is your calling, your testimony, and your legacy. And as you step into it, heaven and earth will bear witness that your God is faithful and His word never fails. This is the moment where the journey through the desert finally reveals its true purpose. What once felt like endless wandering is now revealed as sacred preparation. The wilderness was not wasted, it was the place where God tested the soil of your heart, removing what could not go with you into the promise, and planting seeds of endurance, faith, and vision that could only grow under pressure. Now, as you step into the extraordinary, you will see that every lonely night was a rehearsal for joy. Every unanswered prayer was a foundation for testimony, and every trial was a doorway into triumph. The extraordinary does not erase the desert. It redeems it, turning ashes into beauty and loss into a legacy of grace. This is your time, not because you earned it, but because God appointed it. And now the extraordinary calls you to lift your eyes higher, to expect more, to believe for greater. This is not the season to shrink back or to doubt, it is the time to stretch your faith beyond the borders of what you thought was possible. The God who sustained you in silence is the same God who now speaks loudly over your life. I am making all things new. The extraordinary is not fragile, it is secure, rooted in the eternal promises of God that cannot fail. You will not enter this season with fear, but with confidence, knowing that the same hand that carried you through the wilderness will now establish you in abundance. Your life is shifting from scarcity to overflow, from questions to clarity, and from delay to acceleration. What once felt impossible will now become natural, because the extraordinary is the atmosphere you will carry. So hear this as the final declaration. You have walked through the desert, you have endured the silence, and you have faced the weight of trials. But now you are standing at the threshold of the extraordinary, and nothing will hold you back. Heaven has decreed it, and earth will witness it. Lift your hands, lift your heart, and lift your voice. For the extraordinary is not coming someday, it is here. It is now, and it is yours. Walk boldly, live expectantly, and declare with faith, my desert has ended, and my extraordinary season has begun. And if this word has spoken to your heart, share it. Let it reach others who are still in their wilderness, because the testimony of your breakthrough can become the spark of hope for someone else's journey. This is your moment. Step fully into the extraordinary and never look back.